Alright, this is the Precalculus CLEP review. In this video, I'm going to show you the different sections on the Precalculus CLEP exam and go over a few practice problems. So, the various topics include algebraic expressions, equations, and inequalities, functions, concepts, properties, and operations, representation of functions, symbolic, graphical, and tabular, analytic geometry, trigonometry and its applications, and functions as models. Now, if we look at algebraic expressions, equations, and inequalities, in this section you need to know about operations and algebraic expressions, solving for x. We need to solve equations and inequalities, which include equations such as linear, quadratic, absolute value, polynomial, rational, radical, exponential, logarithmic, and trigonometric. You also need to be able to solve systems of equations, which include linear and nonlinear. So look at this first example problem. It says the point xy lies on the third quadrant of the xy plane and satisfies the equation. What is the value of y? Now if we look here, x minus y equals 1 and x squared plus y squared equals 5. So here we have x minus y equals 1. That's a linear equation. X and y are both to the first power, so that makes it linear. And we have x squared plus y squared equals 5. So that's nonlinear. We have a x squared and y squared is typically a circle. So we got a line and a circle. And the solution to this problem is going to be where those two things intersect, where that line and circle, where they intersect. Now to solve this, I'm going to use substitution. I'm going to take this first equation and solve for x. So I'm going to add y to both sides. So x is equal to 1 plus y. Then what I'm going to take the second equation, replace the x with 1 plus y. So you get 1 plus y squared plus y squared equals 5. Now 1 plus y squared is really 1 plus y times 1 plus y. If I multiply that, I'll get 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times y is y. Y times 1 is y. I'm just using the FOIL method here. And y times y is y squared. And then just bring everything else down. The y squared equals 5. Okay, now I'm going to combine like terms. I have 2 y squareds. Y squared plus y squared is 2 y squared. Y plus y is 2y. And then the plus 1. Now I'm going to try to get that 5 to the other side by subtracting 5. Leaves me with 2y squared plus 2y minus 4 equals 0. Now from here I can see that 2y squared plus 2y minus 4, they all have a 2 in common, so I'm going to factor out a 2. It's going to leave me y squared plus y minus 2 within there. Okay, now I'm going to factor the y squared plus y minus 2. So I have 2 sets of parentheses. Okay, so I need 2 numbers that multiply, they give me negative 2 and add up to 1. Okay, so I know I'm going to have a y in the first spots. And then I'm going to have a 2 and a 1. and the 2 needs to be positive and the 1 negative. So that's going to be 2 minus 1 to give me the 1y, and 2 times negative 1 to give me the negative 2. Okay, so that's that factored. Now the zero product rule states that any of these factors could equal 0, make this whole equation equal to 0. So I have y plus 2 equals 0, and y minus 1 equals 0. Subtract 2 here for both sides, so y equals negative 2. Over here, I'm going to add 1 to both sides, and y equals 1. Now here they wanted to know the point that lies in the third quadrant. So I've got my coordinate system here. The first quadrant is here, second one here, third one here, and then the fourth quadrant. So I look at my y values. We got negative 2 down here and positive 1 here. So we know that has to be the negative 2 because that's going to be in the third quadrant. So our y value is going to be y equals negative 2. So this is an example of solving a system of equations with one line and one circle. The next section involves functions, concepts, properties, and operations. So here you need to know about properties of functions, which include domain and range. Domain is your set of all your valid x values for your function. Range is all the valid y values for your function. You need to know about function notation. You need to understand what f of x is and how to evaluate functions. You also need to be able to perform symbolic operations, which include evaluation of a function and creating the inverse of a function. So this one reads, in the xy plane, which of the following is an equation of a vertical asymptote to the graph y equals secant of 6x minus pi. Now if you remember secant is 1 over cosine. So 1 over cosine. Now vertical asymptote occurs when the denominator of your function is equal to 0. So really we have 1 over cosine of 6x minus pi. So we want to know when cosine 6x minus pi is equal to 0. So if we take a look at the graph of cosine, we can see that cosine is 0 at pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. So what we're going to do here is have 6x minus pi equal pi over 2. So when that equals pi over 2, we're going to get 0 for cosine of 6x minus pi. Alright, so for here I'm going to add pi to both sides. That's 1 pi we're adding. So 6x equals 3/2 pi. My next step is to get rid of the 6 to get the x by itself, so I'm going to divide by 6. So I have x equals, it's going to be 3/12 pi, which can reduce down to 1/4. So our answer is going to be 1/4 pi, or pi over 4. That gives us the answer of B. Pi over 4 will cause cosine 6x minus pi to be 0, giving us a vertical asymptote at that point. So the next section involves representation of functions, symbolic, graphical, and tabular. So here you need to be able to perform operations on functions like adding and subtracting. This is also called algebra of functions. You also need to know function transformations, which includes shifts and reflections. You need to understand properties of functions, which includes finding the zeros of functions, possibly the minimum and maximum of functions too. You need to be able to recognize elementary functions, which include linear, quadratic, absolute value, square root, polynomial, rational, exponential, logarithmic, trigonometric, inverse trigonometric, and piecewise functions. So this one reads, let f be the function defined by f of x equals the negative absolute value of x. The graph of the function g in the xy plane is obtained by first translating the graph of f horizontally 3 units to the left, and then vertically translating this result 2 units up. What is the value of g of negative 2? Alright, so we need to find this other function where it's going to shift it up by 3 units and to the left by 2. Alright, so we're starting out with negative of absolute value of x. Now to shift it horizontally to the left 3 units, we need to change basically the x value. So we're at to add 3 inside the absolute value. So adding 3 here is going to shift it to the left. Now you might think that you need to put a negative 3 to shift it to the left, but it's actually the opposite. To shift it to the left, you need to add 3. If you want to shift it to the right, you need to subtract 3. Alright, so far we have negative of absolute value of x plus 3. That's going to shift it to the left 3 places. Now to shift it up 2, I'm going to add 2 to the whole function. So plus 2 at the end. It's going to give us our g of x equation. And then they want to know what is g of negative 2. So all you do there is replace the x with negative 2. So we get negative absolute value of negative 2 plus 3 plus 2. So negative 2 plus 3 is 1. So negative absolute value of 1 plus 2. So absolute value of 1 is 1, and then negative of that is going to be negative 1, and then plus 2. So that's just going to give us 1 as the answer. So here we have to translate the graph up 3 and to the left 2. We'll come up with a new function, g of x, and then plug in negative 2 for x to find g of negative 2. The next section involves analytic geometry. Here we need to understand what lines are, understand the properties of lines, possibly the slope and x and y intercepts. And we gotta know about circles, the center, and the radius. Might need to know about the circumference and area of it. Parabolas. You know the equation of a parabola, its vertex, axis of symmetry. Ellipses, you know the 2 radiuses, sideways and up, and then hyperbolas. So this one reads, in the xy plane, the graph of y equals x squared plus bx plus c is symmetric of the line x equals 3 and passes through the point 5, 2. So we have an equation with x squared, and that's going to be a parabola. So like that. If it's symmetric around x equals 3, that basically is where the vertex is. So left side and the right side are going to be symmetrical. So that's lines at x equals 3. So we know the x component of the vertex is going to be 3. Now to find the vertex, h comma k, the h is going to be negative b over 2a. And here we know that's the x coordinates, that's going to be equal to 3. Negative b, we don't know. A is the coefficient of the x squared, that's 1. So 2 times 1. So we got 3 equals negative b over 2. Now we need to solve for b. Just going to multiply both sides by 2. This will be 6 equals negative b. And I'm going to divide by negative 1. So b equals negative 6. So now that we know what the b is equal to, we can rewrite our equation. Y equals x squared minus 6x plus c. And we know that it goes through the point 5, 2. So somewhere here. So we can plug that in for our x and y values and figure out what c is equal to. Okay, so our y is 2. X is 5, so 5 squared minus 6 times 5 plus c. So we get 2 equals 25 minus 30 plus c. And then 2, so 25 minus 30 is negative 5. And I want to add 5 to both sides. So you get 7 equals c. So our value of c is equal to 7. So our next section involves trigonometry and its applications. Here you need to understand trigonometric functions, which include sine, cosine, tangent, and then their inverses. Arctangent, arcsine, arccosine. You also need to know trigonometric ratios. You should be familiar with SOHCAHTOA. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And tangent is opposite over adjacent. You also need to know identities, which include sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta is equal to 1. And various other ones. You also need to be able to apply these in various problem-solving scenarios. So this one reads the quantity sine t plus cosine t quantity squared. Basically want to know what that equals. We need to simplify it. So this is squared, so what we're going to do, we're going to square this out. Remember that means sine t plus cosine t times sine t plus cosine of t. Alright, so I end up with sine t times sine t. I'm just using FOIL method here. That's going to give me sine squared t. And then sine t times cosine t is going to be sine t cosine t, and then cosine t times sine t, and then cosine t times cosine t will give me cosine squared t. So I have two like terms in the middle, so I can combine those. So sine squared t plus 2 sine t cosine t plus cosine squared t. Now if you know your identities, you know that sine squared t plus cosine squared t is equal to 1. So basically we write 1 plus 2 sine t cosine t. And there's also another identity, 2 sine t cosine t is equal to sine 2t. So now we're at 1 plus sine 2t. So we have sine t plus cosine t quantity squared is equal to 1 plus sine 2t. Now in this section it deals with functions as models. So we need to be able to interpret, construct functions as models, and translate ideas. So they give you the information either symbolically, graphically, tabular, or in a verbal representation. So here they give us information in a table. X is along the top and P of X on the bottom. P of X is the same as Y. We're dealing with X and Y values. So here it reads, the table above shows selected values for the function P. If P is a quadratic polynomial, what is the value of P of 10? So if we look at this, we kind of graph a few of these. 0, 11, 1, 10, 2, 11, 3, 14. So it's going to kind of look like that. It's quadratic, so it's going to be a parabola. So if we get this minimum point here, that's going to be our vertex. So 110 is going to be our vertex. That's going to be very important. So we have our equation of a parabola in vertex form. So y equals a x minus h squared plus k. So we can plug in our vertex y equals a x minus 1 squared plus 10. And we can go ahead and plug in one of the other points that we know. We know another point is 0, 11. So we can plug that in to get solve for our a. So we get 11 equal a 0 minus 1 squared plus 10. We know 0 minus 1 is negative 1, so negative 1 squared. And we know negative 1 times negative 1 is just 1, so 1a, or just a plus 10. And I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides. So then a will equal 1. So now we know the full equation for the parabola. We know y equals, we know a is 1, so just x minus 1 squared plus 10. If we know, now we want to know a p of 10, so we just plug in 10 for x. So 10 minus 1 squared plus 10. So y equals 9 squared plus 10, or 81 plus 10, which comes out to be 91. So p of 10 is equal to 91.